Greetings everybody, my name is Tommy the Game Master and welcome to my channel. Well, sorry it's taken so long for me to get this video done. There is a problem when so many JRPGs just come out at once, and getting a backlog and getting through some of the backlog to get to this game was a bit of a challenge, and I had new stuff coming up to review, as well as I actually ran out of space on my computer, so I had to get that done before I could finish this. But anyways, even though it's been almost a year since it came out, I'm finally able to review the rest of Kingdom Hearts 2.8 HD by completing a look into Dream Drop Distance. So what are my thoughts on this? Well, I've said this before and I'll say it again. What's in 2.8 is really good and worth playing. Problem is quantity and not quality. We have probably the best 3DS to game console port ever. In fact, it's more of a remake than a port. You're not going to have those blocky, pixelated-ass graphics that I complained about in such games like Azure Striker Gunvolt or Coda Princess. And then you also have a really good tech demo with a decent story within itself to be memorable but short. And then you also have a really crappy movie that does nothing to help the already confusing lore of the series. And when this game first came out, it was $60, which was way too much for me to recommend, given just how little content this was, especially compared to the other HD collections that gave us those final mixes. But now that it's cheaper due to the fact that it's been almost a year since it came out, I can recommend the collection a little bit more cautiously if you can find it at a good price. But anyways, let's take a look at the main course of this collection, which is Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. Proving that no series excels at slowing the story down far more than it has to tease an epic conclusion that makes me doubt that they can even pull it off the more games and side stories they do than Kingdom Hearts. Seriously, we were ready for Kingdom Hearts 3 since the end of Birth by Sleep. Do we need another entry? Square Enix decided we did and put out Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. In this one, Sora and Riku take the Mark of Mastery exam so they can acquire new powers in order to save the characters from Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. And in order to acquire these new powers, Yensid sends the two back in time before their island was consumed by the darkness in the first game. There they take a raft they made out but never used in said game and head out to sea, where they are attacked by Ursula for some reason. And this makes no sense. Number one, they're not in Atlantica. And number two, how the heck does she even know that these two even existed? She shouldn't be able to time travel, and she shouldn't know these two characters by now, because timeline-wise, they haven't even left their island from the first game. Yeah, the game's story is just filled with this. Every time something cool happens, it happens in the most confusing way that just makes you go, what the hell? Anyways, the two beat her, find a magic door they're looking for, and dive into the world of dreams. However, something goes wrong on their entering. While they both end up in the world of dreams, the worlds and lands they visited are similar and different, and the two are separated by some magic wall. It's explained in the end, and while confusing, it's also kind of cool and explains how far Riku has come along since the original game, and his views towards both his friend Sora as well as his views towards Ansem and Terra. Anyways, yeah, I'm going to do a story video on this, discussing the whole dream world and what's happening there, time travel and Xehanort's master plan, and my thoughts on how that's all done. And finally, who the heck these characters that pop up in the introduction of stage. They may not be Final Fantasy characters, but they're from a game that has kicked the crap out of every Final Fantasy game made in the last decade. As far as the rest of the story goes, the Disney worlds are filler for the most part. The duo visit each world, but their stories are different in each one. For example, Riku journeys along with Sam in the Tron Legacy world through the movie's main plot, while Sora's story is about him accepting that Tron is now Rinsler. What's the best way to describe the gameplay outside of it's a Kingdom Hearts game, so it's going to be a button mashing action game? Oh, I know. Ever tried to play two JRPGs at once? Say because a JRPG was pushed back 2 months and that caused a marketing delay for another JRPG that also coincided with the release of another JRPG from another publisher and series that you liked and were waiting for the game to come out? It happens, and let's just say it's hard to do, and Kingdom Hearts 3D gives you that feeling throughout the game, but in a decent way for the most part. Some people don't like this, and I can certainly understand. The game centers around something called the drop gauge, which runs out about every half hour or so, and when it does, you switch characters and start off at the last place they were when their drop gauge dropped down to 0. This is the main hook, and while it can be irritating and sometimes leave you confused to where you were in the story area or just exploring to go to another character in another area to continue a different quest all of a sudden when that gauge hits 0, that said, it's an important element of the game to master as you go through, as one character completing side challenges and defeating enemies allows you to collect a type of currency called drop points. And when that drop gauge runs out, you can use it to power up the other character for a while until he drops. So yeah, while it does leave you multitasking, it's still kind of fun trying to figure things out and plan ahead for the next drop. Also, each character has their own level, stats, and special moves. That said, they share the same abilities, and if you can share the same teammates when it comes to the Dream Eaters. What are they? Well, Donald and Goofy weren't invited to come along, so instead you get to create these Pokemon-esque creatures. You don't catch them, you create them. Sometimes when you defeat an evil Dream Eater, they drop something called a Nightmare part. Getting enough of the right parts to create helpful Spirit Dream Eaters are what you have to do throughout the game. These things aren't only your companions, they're also what teaches your new moves and abilities. The longer you have a Dream Eater equipped, the more level and points they gather, and when you have enough link points, you can enter the screen and spend them on new moves and abilities. It's actually kind of fun and different way of doing things. That said, I preferred the fusion systems in Birth by Sleep way more. I would say this is still an enjoyable unlocking new paths and ability the more time and attention I give my virtual pet companions, but just the fusion system gave you more mystery and gave you more things to do in Birth by Sleep. And to train these pet companions, I have to do things like play a handful of mini games or give them treats or prizes. But do be careful, as if they run out of HP and you don't resuscitate them, they do die and return to their base material. You can collect it up and create the monster easy enough, but everything resets back to 0. As for the stages, you probably think that this is Birth by Sleep when you're only going to be going through different parts of them, and what changes is the character you're playing. While there are some differences between Sora and Riku, they are nowhere near the differences in gameplay style that the three in Birth by Sleep have. Fortunately, the stages are different enough for the two. While the first two areas are practically identical outside for a different area or two, when you go through the Hunchback of Notre Dame's world or Traverse Town, you're going through very similar looking worlds. However, by the time you hit Monstro, you notice things are starting to change big time for them in the gameplay section. Sora visits the theme park while Riku revisits Monstro Bowels and yes, even comes in contact with his old self. The Three Musketeers stage that follows has Sora exploring the countryside and only briefly entering the concert hall towards the end, while Riku is stuck exploring the inside area of the concert hall trying to thwart Pete's traps. And then finally, the Fantasia stage has Sora and Riku entering two very different worlds, and the last stage is 100% different for both of them. It's a nice way to avoid that trap that was in Birth by Sleep of just having to repeat these same areas over and over again with different characters. Another new addition to the game comes in the flow motion system, which allows Sora and Riku to bounce off walls and grind on rails and things, and also set off some special attacks. Overall, I kind of like this idea. It gives the world some depth that they had back in the original Kingdom Hearts, but it keeps frustration that can come with platforming down to a minimum. Overall, in my personal opinion, this is one of the more enjoyable games in the Kingdom Hearts series. My only real big complaint is the world selection is a bit wonky, and it's a bit odd the choices of the worlds they decided to go with. If you think about it, we only have one new theatrical animated Disney World here, with Hunchback of Notre Dame. Tron was live action, Pinocchio we have visited before, Musketeers was straight to video and was just an odd choice to begin with. And while Fantasia was theatrically released, it's more of a movie with a bunch of shorts just animated to classical music rather than having a story in itself. The world leaves an odd taste in my mouth and leads to the Disney side of things being a bit of a disappointment to me. Fortunately, what they do with the worlds is another story, so I still enjoy myself going through them, especially how each stage uses a reality shift features that incorporates something that's from that movie into it to really make each world seem more unique, whether it's hacking in Tron or using musical notes to attack enemies in Fantasia. It does add things to the stages. And I should note that one of the most interesting things about Fantasia is they get rid of all the character grunts for their attacks, and you just listen to classical music and you hear musical instrument whenever you land a blow, which I thought was a great feature. This is for the most part a ground-up remake of Dream Drop Distance in a similar style that the original Kingdom Hearts got in its original HD interpretation. And what can I say? It's really beautifully done. It goes 60 frames per second. The camera is fully functional and easiest to operate in all of the Kingdom Hearts games. The stages just really pop out and the action is just fluid. This isn't like the 3DS ports I cover on Steam from time to time, where no attention to putting them on a big computer screen was given. The game is beautiful and it just shows how much effort was put into this upgrade. With that said, I do feel like I need to defend the original 3DS version just a little bit. It actually uses the 3D feature on it really well, and it just pops up. And unlike the other PS2 games that needed some character work, it's important to understand those reworked character designs came from the original 3DS game. If you're only buying this collection for a graphics upgrade on Dream Drop Distance, make sure you get it at a good price, because even though it has a 60 frames per second upgrade and even though it's now in HD, I still like to play the 3DS version from time to time, and I plan on keeping it. The music is spot on, perfect, like you expect from a Kingdom Hearts game, and the vocals are good. The Tron stage, of course, has sound-alike replacements, but they all do a good job.
It's gone.
The world that is most striking, though, is when it comes to the music, is the Fantasia world. As I said before, the usual grunts and battle clips are replaced with musical instruments that accompany the classical music that you're going to hear throughout the stage. It was a nice touch by Square Enix here. Overall, the music and sound really impresses me. When it comes to this port of Dream Drop Distance, it's phenomenal and one of the best console releases of a 3DS game I have ever seen. This is the bar people should be aiming for when they port a game off of the 3DS. With that said, it's the only really long-lasting and good thing about the 2.8 collection. Yeah, I enjoyed a fragmented passage, and it does make me want to try Kingdom Hearts 3. But it's not worth any real extra money because it's less than 3 hours long. And let's face it, the movie really sucks. If Square Enix priced this like their other collections at $40, I would probably be happier to give it a recommendation. But when it was first launched, the asking price for this was $60, which was way too much for what you're getting, which is basically just a remake of Dream Drop Distance with a few other side notes that are forgettable on the side. If you find this for $40 or less, it is worth a pickup though, because it's a great port of Dream Drop Distance, and Fragmentary Passage is also pretty decent, but again, only 3 hours. The other collections just had so much more with what you got with the final mixes and the HD upgrades that you just don't get in this collection. So hence why I'm saying get it at $40 or less, because there's not much here to really justify $60, unfortunately. Well guys, that's it for this video. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. I'll put up some annotations to some other Kingdom Hearts video, and please click that subscribe button. I'd love to have you as a member of my community.